The forgotten face from his past. The soft morning light filtered through the glass windows of the Google headquarters in Mountain View. Sundar Pichai stood quietly by his office window, sipping his black coffee. The city below buzzed with activity, but inside his office, a peaceful silence lingered. He was a man known for innovation, intelligence, and humility. But today, something tugged at his heart. Something from long ago. His phone buzzed on the desk, pulling him out of his thoughts. It was an alert from a news app he rarely checked. The headline made his fingers pause midair. Elderly maid, 80, still cleaning houses in Chennai to survive, says she once worked for a boy named Sundar. His heart skipped a beat. Sundar clicked the article. There she was. Her hair had turned white, her back bent slightly with age. But her eyes, they were the same. Soft, kind, and filled with a quiet strength. Her name was Amma Vijaya, but he had always called her Auntie Vijaya. His mind flooded with memories. 38 years ago, in Chennai, young Sundar, just a curious 10-year-old, sat on the cold tile floor of his modest home, watching his mother prepare breakfast. His father read the newspaper quietly in the corner. Every morning, the same figure would arrive, carrying a small steel lunchbox and wearing a simple cotton sari. "Good morning, Sundar," she'd say, her smile warming the whole house. "Good morning, Auntie Vijaya," he'd shout with joy, running to hug her. She cleaned the floors, washed the clothes, and sometimes even helped Sundar with his homework when his parents were busy. But more than that, she shared stories, folk tales from her village, funny tales of animals, and even deep wisdom that stuck with Sundar long after. "Be kind, little one," she once said, placing a warm hand on his head. "Kindness always comes back to you." At the time, he hadn't truly understood. But now, as the CEO of one of the biggest tech companies in the world, those words rang louder than ever. Back to the present. Sundar read on. The article said she worked 6 days a week, walking from house to house to earn barely enough for food and rent. No pension, no support, no family left. She didn't even realize who Sundar had become. "He was always a bright boy," she had told the reporter. "I wonder where he is now." Sundar put the phone down, his chest tightening. The room felt smaller suddenly. Everything, the tech, the meetings, the responsibilities, faded into the background. This wasn't just about helping someone in need. This was personal. He reached for his desk phone. "Get me a flight to Chennai. Today," he said firmly. "In Chennai." Vijaya slowly scrubbed the marble tiles of a wealthy family's mansion. Her joints ached, her vision blurred sometimes, but she kept going. Her hands moved automatically, worn by decades of labor. No one really noticed her. Not anymore. She was just the maid, someone in the background. During a short break, she sat under the shade of a neem tree outside the house. Children ran past her, giggling. She smiled faintly. Memories of a young Sundar came flooding back. "I wonder if he still remembers me," she whispered. 20 hours later, a black car stopped outside the narrow street, where Vijaya lived in a small rented single-room house. Sundar stepped out, wearing a simple shirt and jeans, trying to blend in. But his heart raced like a schoolboy's. His driver pointed. "Sir, this is the place. But are you sure this is where you want to go alone?" Sundar nodded. "Yes. Thank you." He walked to the door and knocked gently. Inside, Vijaya stirred from her nap. Her knees cracked as she stood, wiping her hands on her sari. "Coming," she called. As she opened the door, her eyes widened. She blinked, confused. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked politely. Sundar's voice trembled. "Auntie Vijaya." "It's me, Sundar." Her lips parted. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then, tears welled in her eyes. "Sundar, my little Sundar." Her voice cracked. He nodded, stepping forward, hugging her gently. She broke into tears, holding him like she had done so many years ago. Look at you. You came back, she whispered, her voice full of disbelief and joy. I never forgot you, Sundar said softly. And I'm sorry it took me so long. Later that evening, they sat together on the floor, like old times. She made him her favorite tea, strong, sweet, with a hint of cardamom. He insisted on helping her, but she laughed and said, some habits never change. She told him how her life had gone after she left his family's house. Her husband died early. Her only son moved away and never came back. She had worked every day since to survive. But I'm still strong, she smiled, showing her arm. See, Sundar held her hand gently. You won't have to do it anymore, he said. I'm here now, and I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. She shook her head. You don't need to. I want to, he said firmly. You helped shape me into the man I am. Now it's my turn. Meanwhile, in the US, news quickly spread. Google CEO flies to India to help his childhood maid. People around the world were touched. Thousands shared their own stories of forgotten heroes from their past. Sundar didn't care about the fame. For him, this was never about image. It was about Auntie Vijaya. And this was just the beginning. He had something beautiful planned. Something that would not only change Vijaya's life, but would also inspire millions. The house she never dreamed of. The next morning in Chennai, sunlight slipped through the small curtain covering Vijaya's one dusty window. Her home, just one single room with an old fan, a rusted bed, and a tin trunk, was hardly enough space to breathe, let alone live. But today, the air inside felt different. Vijaya woke up, still unsure if yesterday had been a dream. Had Sundar really returned? Was that really her little boy, now a man the world admired? Her thoughts were interrupted when she heard a soft knock on the door again. This time, when she opened it, there wasn't just Sundar. There were two other people with him, his assistant and an architect. Good morning, Auntie Vijaya. Sundar smiled warmly. You came again, she whispered, her eyes wide. He nodded, stepping aside and gesturing. We're going to build you a new house. A new what? She thought she had misheard. A new mattress, a new room. But Sundar explained gently. Not just a room, Auntie. A full house. With a kitchen, a garden, and even a swing in the courtyard. Just like the ones you used to talk about when I was small. Vijaya covered her mouth in shock. But I have no land. You will. I bought a piece yesterday, close to the temple you visit. It's peaceful and sunny, and has space for flowers. She stared at him, speechless. For years, her dreams had been tiny. Getting through the day, saving a few rupees, staying out of pain. Now someone was giving her a future again. And not just someone. The boy she once bathed, fed, and watched grow. By afternoon, they drove to the plot. It wasn't too big or too small. A perfect corner with trees along one side and a breeze that carried the smell of blooming jasmines. Vijaya stepped onto the earth, her hands trembling. This will be mine. Yes, and not just for now, Sundar said. Forever. She turned slowly, blinking against the sunlight. This is too much. You gave me everything when you had nothing, Sundar said, looking into her eyes. This is still too little. The planning began that day. The architect asked Vijaya what she wanted. She looked overwhelmed. I've never thought of what I want, she said honestly. Sundar smiled. Then let's start small. He sat with her on the ground, sketching with a stick in the sand. What about a big kitchen? You always loved cooking. Yes, she smiled. And a small temple space. Of course. And a washing area outside so I can still clean clothes. Sundar laughed. Only if you want. But you'll have a washing machine too. Back at her rented room that evening, Vijaya sat by the window, holding the sketch in her hand like it was a treasure. Her fingers traced the pencil lines. The bedroom, the veranda, the garden. She had seen homes like this on TV. She had cleaned homes like this for decades, but to think one would be her own. She looked up at the tiny shelf where she kept a photo of her younger self with Sundar as a little boy. It was faded now, colors nearly gone. But that day, it felt alive again. Your kindness came back, Vijaya, she whispered to herself, tears slipping down her wrinkled cheeks. Meanwhile, Sundar sat in his hotel room. He had canceled meetings, cleared his schedule, and ignored press calls. All he focused on now was making things right for someone who had mattered more than anyone knew. His assistant asked, "Sir, you've done so much already. Are you planning anything more?" He nodded. "Yes, this isn't about charity. This is about dignity. She deserves more than comfort. She deserves recognition." 2 weeks later, the first brick was laid. Vijaya was given a white flower to bless the foundation. She stood silently for a long moment, tears streaming freely as her trembling hand placed the flower down. Cameras clicked. Reporters stood outside the site. But Sundar kept them all at a distance. "This is her moment," he told them, "not mine." Vijaya didn't care about the press. She only looked at the walls being formed and whispered quietly, "Thank you, God." Days turned into weeks. Vijaya would visit the site every morning, watching the workers laugh and build with care. She brought them tea sometimes, just like she used to for Sundar's father. When the flooring was placed, she stepped barefoot across the marble, giggling like a child. "Feels like a palace." One day, Sundar arrived with another surprise, a small plaque, "Home of Vijaya Devi," built with love and honor. Vijaya touched the metal letters, her voice soft. "This is too much. You gave me shelter when I was small. Now I'm giving it back." The inauguration day finally came. A few close friends, old neighbors, and local school children were invited. Garlands hung on the entrance. A fresh rangoli was drawn on the floor. Vijaya wore a brand new silk sari, something she hadn't done in years. As she lit the lamp inside the doorway, she looked around, then at Sundar. "Can I tell you something?" she whispered. "Of course. For many years, I thought God had forgotten me." She paused, smiling gently. "But now I think he was just waiting for the right time and the right boy to return." Sundar took her hand and nodded, silently promising himself. This was just the beginning. She never asked for fame. He gave it anyway. Vijaya had lived a long, quiet life. Her struggles were never written about. Her tears were never seen. Her hard work never made the news, and she never once asked for recognition. But Sundar Pichai knew something the world had forgotten. The quietest heroes often carry the heaviest burdens. After the house was built, Sundar returned to California. But even from oceans away, his heart stayed in Chennai. Every evening after meetings, he would call Vijaya on video. "How's the garden? Did you cook something new? Did the neighborhood kids come to visit?" She'd laugh and say, "They come every day. They call me Patty now, Grandma." But she didn't know what Sundar was planning next. One day, in a large conference hall in Bangalore, Google hosted a leadership summit with tech founders, engineers, investors, and creators from across India and abroad. The hall was filled with thousands of people. But Sundar wasn't there to talk about tech. "Before we begin," he said, standing on stage, "I want to introduce someone very special. Someone who shaped my character before I ever typed my first line of code." People looked around curiously. A spotlight turned to the side of the stage. Vijaya stepped out, slowly, nervously. She wore a simple sari. Her hair was tied back. Her hands trembled slightly as she walked. The audience stood up, a standing ovation. For a maid who had scrubbed floors, washed clothes, and walked for miles each day just to feed herself. Sundar walked over, held her hand, and brought her to the center. "This is Vijaya Amma," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "When I was a child, she helped raise me. She taught me about kindness, hard work, and patience. When we had little, She gave everything she had. Tears filled Vijaya's eyes. She had never been applauded in her life. No one had ever said thank you. And now thousands were clapping for her. The world sees me as successful, Sundar continued. But success isn't built alone. It's built on the shoulders of those who serve quietly in the background. It's built on love. After the event, media channels exploded with news. Google CEO honors childhood maid on global stage. Unsung hero of Sundar Pichai's life finally recognized. Her name is Vijaya, and she inspired millions overnight. Millions of people across the world watched the clip. Some cried. Some called their own childhood helpers. Some even started funds to help elderly domestic workers. The internet remembered humanity that day. Back in Chennai, Vijaya's world changed forever. Suddenly, people she had once worked for looked at her with new eyes. Shopkeepers offered her free vegetables. A school offered to make her their guest speaker. A little girl came running one day and said, "Payati, my mama said you're famous now. Are you on YouTube?" Vijaya laughed and hugged her. "Maybe I am." But Sundar wasn't finished yet. He reached out to a filmmaker friend and said, "We need to tell her full story, in a way people will never forget." A short documentary was made, titled The Woman Who Raised a CEO. It featured old photos, memories from Sundar's childhood, and even interviews with people from Vijaya's past. She told stories of small joys, like eating mangoes with Sundar in the backyard, teaching him how to fold his uniform, or singing lullabies when his mother was late from work. "I was just doing what needed to be done," she said in the film. But the world saw more. They saw grace, resilience, humility. The documentary went viral within hours. Around the same time, Vijaya received a letter from the President of India. It invited her to receive a special award for lifetime dedication to humanity and service. "Me?" she asked Sundar in disbelief. "Yes, Auntie. You." On the award day, she stood in front of leaders, ministers, and officers. Her name was called, and she walked slowly to the stage. The president placed a medal around her neck. She whispered softly, "Thank you, but the real reward was watching my little boy grow up to be a good man." The president smiled, replying, "Then you've truly lived a successful life." Later that night, in her new home, Vijaya sat in the courtyard, holding the medal in her lap. It sparkled in the moonlight. Sundar called again. "How does it feel to be famous?" She chuckled, "Strange, but beautiful." He leaned forward on screen, voice gentle. "Do you know something, Monty? The world may now know your name, but I've always known your heart." But the journey wasn't over. In fact, something even more life-changing was about to happen. A school in her name, a legacy for generations. Months passed. The new house still smelled of fresh paint and marigolds. Every morning, Vijaya swept the front steps not because she had to, but because it brought her peace. She watered the small plants along her garden and fed 2 stray puppies that had made her home their own. Her life had changed, but her heart remained the same. She still cooked her meals with love, shared her food with children nearby, and offered silent prayers before sleeping. Yet, something inside her wondered, was this all? Is this the end of my story? But Sundar had other plans, ones she couldn't even dream of. In a video call from California, "Auntie," Sundar said one evening, "I want to do something bigger." "Bigger than all this?" She laughed, waving her hand around the beautiful home. "Yes," he replied, "I serious. I want to build a school in your name." Vijaya froze. "Of school?" "Yes, for underprivileged children, a place where boys and girls like me, who come from simple homes, can learn, grow, and dream. And it will carry your name." Her eyes filled with tears instantly. "Why me, Sundar?" He smiled softly. "Because you taught me my first lessons, not just with books, but with life." And so, the journey began. The land was purchased just outside Chennai, surrounded by fields, coconut trees, and fresh air. Sundar flew in again, this time with a team of architects and educational consultants. They didn't want to build just a basic school. They wanted to build a model school. The vision: a place where education was free, where students got uniforms, books, and meals, where girls had equal opportunities, where children didn't just learn math or science, but also empathy, kindness, and purpose. The name: Vijaya Devi Foundation School. Vijaya visited the site a week later. There was nothing yet, just open land, a soft breeze, and chalk outlines on the ground. But in her mind, she saw children running, laughing, learning. "What will it look like?" she asked curiously. "You tell me." Sundar smiled. "A big playground." "Done." "Strong classrooms with big windows." "Yes." "And a kitchen. Children must eat well." "Absolutely." Construction started quickly. Hundreds of workers came together, day and night, brick by brick, classroom by classroom. Villagers gathered to watch the miracle unfold. Some offered to help. One man said, "My mother knew Vijaya. She once gave her half her lunch during a hot summer day. Now I want to give something back." People donated what they could: cement bags, bricks, even homemade snacks for workers. The community felt something special was being built. Not just a school, but a symbol of hope. Months later, the school was ready. Painted in soft cream and sky blue, it had 6 classrooms, a science lab, a library with colorful shelves, and a garden shaped like a heart. On the main entrance was a bronze plaque that read, "This school stands on the shoulders of a woman who served in silence. Vijaya Devi Foundation. Education built with love." Inauguration day arrived. Hundreds came. Children stood with balloons. Villagers wore their best clothes. Banners fluttered in the breeze. Vijaya stood beside Sundar, dressed in a graceful green sari. Her eyes scanned every corner. The stage, the books, the children. And for the first time in her 80 years, she felt fulfilled. A young girl came up and gave her a bouquet. "Thank you, Padi. I want to be a doctor because of your school." Vijaya bent down, hugging her. "Then study well, and never forget to be kind." Sundar gave a short speech. "Today is not about me. It's about a woman who shaped my values. A woman who cleaned floors but carried dignity in her soul. A woman who taught me that small acts of love can build a better world." He paused. "This school is just a beginning." Inside the school library, Vijaya found something unexpected. A book placed on a wooden stand. It was titled, "Amma Vijaya," a story of grace, written by a local author who had interviewed her and many others. Vijaya touched the pages carefully, smiling at the photos of her younger self with Sundar, the small house they once lived in, and stories she'd forgotten she told. "My life is in a book," she whispered, amazed. "Yes," Sundar replied. "So generations will remember." Over the next weeks, children filled the classrooms. Laughter echoed in the halls. Teachers greeted Vijaya whenever she visited. A teacher told her one day, "You're more than a name. You're an idea now. Every girl here believes she can rise, because you did." Vijaya smiled. "And they will rise higher than me." A local news channel aired a feature, "From Maid to Matriarch: How Vijaya Amma's Legacy is Educating India's Future." Donations began pouring in. More land was bought. 2 more classrooms were added. Internet labs were built. But what mattered most? Children who had no future now had dreams. One afternoon, sitting under the neem tree inside the schoolyard, Vijaya sat with Sundar. "You've given me so much," she said. He looked at her, his voice quiet. "No, Auntie. I've only returned what was always yours." But fate had one more surprise waiting. Something that would take Vijaya beyond India's borders, into the hearts of millions across the globe. The United Nations invitation. Even after the school was built and the media buzz faded, Vijaya returned to her simple life. Every morning, she still folded her sari the same way. She sat on her small veranda with a steel tumbler of tea and watched the sun rise behind the school she never dreamed of. Her wrinkles told 1,000 stories, but her eyes still sparkled like a child's. The students at the Vijaya Devi Foundation School called her Amma now, not just as a sign of respect, but as a symbol of love. She never asked for any of this, but the world wasn't finished honoring her yet. One morning, a letter arrived. It wasn't from a local authority or school board. It was from the United Nations headquarters in New York City. Sundar flew to Chennai just to deliver it in person. "Auntie," he said, holding the envelope gently, "this is for you." She opened it slowly, squinting at the letter, tracing the English words with her finger. "What does it say?" she asked softly. He smiled. "They want you to speak at the United Nations. You've been chosen as a guest of honor. They want the world to hear your story, your journey." Vijaya gasped. "Me? What would I say?" "Exactly what you've always said," he answered. "Truth, love, kindness. That's what the world needs most." Preparations began. Passport, visa, travel clothes, translators, press. It overwhelmed Vijaya, who had never even been inside an airport. "What if they laugh at me?" she asked. "No one will laugh, Auntie," Sundar reassured her. "They will listen, and they will remember." The day arrived. Dressed in a soft cream-colored silk sari, with a jasmine garland in her hair, Vijaya boarded a plane for the first time in her life. She held on to Sundar's hand the entire time. "Are we flying or floating?" she whispered during takeoff, eyes wide with wonder. "Both," he smiled. "You're rising." New York greeted her with a winter breeze. Reporters waited at the airport. Cameras flashed. People waved small Indian flags. Someone even held up a sign that read, "Welcome Vijaya Amma, the heart of India." She couldn't believe it. A woman who had once walked barefoot to clean houses was now walking into a luxury car with flowers in her lap. The United Nations Hall was massive. Flags from every country hung tall. World leaders sat quietly. Interpreters adjusted their headsets. The room was filled with power, politics, and polished speeches. But that day, a humble maid from Chennai would speak. Sundar sat in the front row, his eyes misty. A group of engineering students even developed an app that connected people who wanted to support nearby workers with food, books, or even just a kind word. And at the heart of it all was Vijaya Amma. She didn't understand the buzz. She didn't know what viral meant. She didn't care about numbers or likes. But she did understand this. Someone out there got to sleep in a bed tonight instead of a street corner. That's enough. One afternoon, a girl named Meena came to her house. She was 14. Her mother worked as a maid. Her father had left long ago. She looked nervous, holding a small bouquet made from wildflowers. "Amma," she said quietly, "I got a scholarship. Your foundation is sending me to a good school." Vijaya's eyes filled with tears. "You will study well, Meena." The girl nodded. "I will become a teacher, just like the ones in your school." Vijaya hugged her tightly. "Then I will live again through you." Sundar watched it all happen, quietly, proudly. He visited the Kindness Foundation offices across cities, never as a CEO, but as a volunteer. He helped pack school kits, carried water bottles during events, listened to the stories of struggling mothers and broken fathers. "They remind me of home," he once told Vijaya. "They remind me of you." A new award was created by the foundation, the Invisible Hero Award. Each year, 10 people, maids, drivers, janitors, nannies, would be honored. They'd receive not just medals, but full support for their families. At the first ceremony, Vijaya sat on stage beside Sundar. 10 women came up, each one with a story of pain and strength. One of them, a grandmother, had raised 4 grandchildren after her daughter passed. She stood shaking, unable to speak. Vijaya walked to her slowly and held her hand. "Don't be afraid," she whispered. "You are not invisible anymore." The room clapped until their hands hurt. But not everything was perfect. One day, Vijaya fell ill. Her legs swelled. She became weak. Doctors said she needed full rest. News spread fast. Thousands sent messages. People gathered outside her home and school, holding candles and singing softly at night. Sundar sat by her bedside. "Auntie, you have to fight." She smiled. "I have fought all my life. Now I will rest. But promise me, you will continue." He held her hand, eyes filled with tears. "Always." And just like that, she recovered. Slowly, gently. One breath at a time. One smile at a time. Doctors said her strength came not just from medicine, but from love. From the children who came and sat beside her quietly. From the villagers who prayed each day. From the global family she had unknowingly built. On her birthday that year, the Kindness Foundation declared Vijaya Day, a global day of service. People in over 40 countries volunteered at shelters, donated meals, helped elderly workers, and wrote letters to their local heroes. Some cleaned public parks. Some gave foot massages to tired grandmothers. A teacher in Brazil made her students write essays on the quietest hero they knew. And thousands shared one message online: "Be kind like Vijaya." As Vijaya looked out from her porch that evening, holding a cup of warm milk, she said something quietly to Sundar. "I was once forgotten, Veda. Now the world remembers me, not for what I did, but for what I loved." Her final wish, and Sundar's promise to the world. Years passed. What began as a simple act of gratitude had turned into a wave of kindness across the world. From the small school in Chennai to global events in New York, Vijaya Devi, once a quiet housemaid, had become a symbol of love, humility, and dignity. But age has a way of catching even the strongest hearts. At 84, Vijaya's steps grew slower, her back curved more. Her hands, once firm with work, trembled softly. But her mind remained clear, her soul still warm. Each day, she sat under the neem tree in her garden, surrounded by the laughter of visiting children and the flowers she once thought she'd never see in her own yard. And each day, Sundar called. No matter where he was, be it a global conference, a summit, or a boardroom, he paused his world to speak to her. One afternoon, while watching school children play nearby, Vijaya whispered to Sundar, "Beta, I want to ask something." He leaned forward gently on the call. "Anything, Auntie. Promise me, when I leave this world, you won't let the kindness stop." His chest grew heavy. "Don't talk like that. It's time." She smiled, not with fear, but peace. "My body is tired, but my heart is full. I only want to leave a world where kindness continues, where maids like me are seen, heard, and held." "I promise," he said quietly. "One more thing," she added. "Tell my story to those who have none. Not just to make them cry, but to make them believe they matter." 3 months later, the world stopped to grieve. Vijaya passed away peacefully in her sleep, wrapped in her favorite cream-colored sari, her hands folded over a worn-out photo of young Sundar. She had lived in silence, but she left with the voice of 1,000 echoes. The news spread across the globe. Vijaya Amma, beloved maid, mother figure, global icon, passes at 84. India mourns the heart that gave the world kindness. Google CEO's tribute to the woman who raised him. All over India, candles were lit in schools, homes, and temples. People wrote letters to their own mothers, grandmothers, nannies, and housemaids. Children stood for a moment of silence in classrooms. The Kindness Foundation set up a digital wall called Messages for Amma. Within 48 hours, over 10 million people left notes, poems, and drawings. Her funeral was simple, just like she would have wanted. But the crowd was not. Thousands came. Some had never met her. Many had. Sundar walked quietly behind her casket, not as a CEO, but as a grieving son. Beside her burial site, they placed a stone bench under the neem tree. It read, "Here rests Vijaya Devi, who gave the world a softer heart." But Sundar wasn't done. 3 weeks after her passing, he gave a speech unlike any other. No stage, no cameras, just him, standing in front of students at the Vijaya Devi Foundation School. His voice cracked, but his words were clear. She never asked for anything. She never wanted to be known. And yet, today, her name stands with those who've changed the world. He paused. "I once said I'd build a school in her name. I did. Then we built a foundation. But now we build something bigger." He launched the Vijaya Global Initiative, a massive worldwide program across 30 countries that aim to create safe shelters for elderly domestic workers, fund 1,000 community schools by 2030, provide legal protection for workers in rural areas, promote kindness education in early schools, and more importantly, it would tell the stories of the unseen. Every child in Vijaya's school received a small badge that day. Engraved on it were 2 words: "Be kind." Simple, powerful, hers. Years later, a young girl named Meena, the one Vijaya once hugged, grew up and became a teacher. On her first day, teaching at the same school Vijaya helped build, she placed a photo of Vijaya Amma on her desk and told her students, "This woman never went to school, but she taught the world." As for Sundar, he never stopped. He kept his promise. Every December 3rd, Vijaya Amma's birthday, he returned to Chennai to sit under the neem tree, read the children's stories, and light a lamp in her memory. And every time someone asked why he was so grounded, so humble, so deeply human, he would simply smile and say, "Because I was raised by love."